Good evening and welcome. I'm your host Ben, and tonight we won't be diving into wars or revolutions. Instead, we'll follow something much quieter. A day spent on the muddy roads of rural England in the 1800s. No carriages with gold trim or grand estates, just a creaking wooden cart, wool-wrapped goods, and the steady pace of a travelling merchant making his way from one village to the next. There's frost on the hedgerows, smoke curling from chimneys, and a long day ahead. So settle in, let your shoulders drop, and come along for the slow, worn journey of a merchant with boots full of road dust and a mind full of simple, practical thoughts. You awaken just before dawn, in the small back room of a country inn. Pale grey light slips through the wooden shutters, illuminating wisps of your breath in the chilly air. The room is humble, a narrow cot with a straw-filled mattress and a wool blanket pulled up to your chin. You take a slow, deep breath and listen to the gentle quiet of early morning, a distant rooster crowing, and the soft crackle of last night's embers in the hearth downstairs. For a moment you savour the warmth of the bed, knowing how precious a simple roof and bed are to a traveller like you. Reluctantly, you push aside the blanket and sit up. The air bites at your skin, and your fingers are stiff with cold as you tug on your worn boots. You roll your shoulders to shake off the ache of yesterday's journey. Your boots, scuffed and cracked with age, still hold strong, loyal companions moulded to the shape of your feet. Wrapping a threadbare scarf around your neck, you pull on your heavy overcoat. Its thick wool, though frayed at the edges, still holds the memory of countless cold mornings and the faint comforting smell of wood smoke and earth. Down in the yard, your donkey awaits. Stepping outside, you are greeted by a silvered world of frost. The dirt road and brown grass glisten under a thin crust of ice that crunches under your feet. The dawn sky is pearly white, the sun not yet risen above the rolling hills. In the stable, your donkey nickers softly as you approach. "Good morning, old friend," you whisper, your voice muffled in the stillness. You pat the donkey's flank, feeling the warmth of the animal and the coarse hair beneath your hand. Its breath steams in the cold as you offer a handful of oats saved from yesterday. The quiet munching and the occasional stamp of hooves are the only sounds in the crisp air. You begin loading your small wooden cart, which has been kept in the stable overnight. The cart's wheels and axles creak in protest as you give it a gentle shake to test the balance of your load. Stacked inside are the fruits of your trade, wooden crates and canvas bundles carefully packed with goods to sell. Years ago, when you first started peddling, you carried everything on your back. In those days, your pack could weigh nearly 100 pounds, and you trudged on foot from village to village. Only later, after saving enough coin, were you able to afford this sturdy little donkey and cart to lighten your burden. Still, the life of a traveling merchant remains physically demanding. You have trudged along endless miles of road in every kind of weather, shoulders bowed against rain and wind, sun and snow. This morning's cold is just another challenge you've grown accustomed to over the years. Before setting off, you double-check that everything is tied down securely with rope. Your breath hangs in the air as you go over your inventory in your mind. Your wares include a bit of everything a country household might fancy or need. Neatly bundled packets of sewing needles and spools of strong thread, lengths of lace trim and brightly colored ribbons, a few cheap brooches and trinkets, a small hand mirror with a tin frame, and even a couple of folded linens and printed chapbooks tucked away for customers hungry for something new. Satisfied that all is in order, you gently hitch the donkey's harness. The old girl shakes her ears and starts forward patiently as you take hold of the cart's handle. It's time to depart. Leaving the courtyard, you nod a quiet farewell to the drowsy innkeeper, sweeping the front steps. The inn was modest but welcoming, a brief haven on your long route. With a final glance back at the glow of the inn's windows, you turn to the road ahead. The morning is still and quiet. As you walk, you soak in the subtle, peaceful details of the dawn around you. Sound, the crunch of frost and gravel under your worn boots, and the wooden cartwheels, steady and rhythmic in the silence. The harness jingles softly with each step, and now and then the donkey snorts puffs of white breath into the cold air. Sight, a milky mist clings to the fields on either side of the lane. Bare branches of oak and ash trees reach into the pale sky. As the first weak sunlight breaks over the horizon, a soft golden light washes over the frozen hedgerows, glinting on the ice crystals like tiny stars. Smell. The air is clean and sharp. You catch the faint smell of wood smoke from a far-off cottage fire, mixed with the damp, earthy scent of leaves resting in ditches, still wet from yesterday's brief rain. Touch. You tug your coat tighter around you, feeling the brisk air on your face, which wakes you fully. Your fingers tingle inside your gloves until they warm up with the motion of walking, and you flex them around the cart's handle. As dawn turns to morning, the world slowly comes alive. A pair of crows take off from a lone elm tree, their wings whumping the air and their raspy calls echoing across the quiet fields. In the distance, you hear the lowing of cows as a farmer in a pasture guides them out to graze. A farm dog barks once and then falls silent. Passing a hedgerow, you startle a hare that darts across the lane, its white tail aflash before it disappears into the brush. You smile to yourself at the sudden life in this tranquil morning. The road unfolds before you, mile after mile of dirt and the occasional stone. In some stretches, it is rutted by wagon wheels and hardened by frost, requiring you to mind your step. This route winds gently through low hills and sparse woodland, connecting a scatter of hamlets to the larger market village you plan to reach by mid-morning. You know these roads well, every curve and fork. As a traveling merchant, you have no permanent home, but in a way the road is your home. You follow its familiar path from one friendly roof to the next, tracing a circuit that repeats with the seasons. After an hour or two of steady walking, the sun climbs a little higher, taking the edge off the cold. Patches of frost begin to soften into thin mud in the roadway. You pause on a rise to let the donkey rest. From the hilltop, you can just make out the slate roofs of a village ahead and the modest spire of its church poking above the treetops. That is your destination for the day's market. A small smile warms your face at the thought of reaching it soon. The promise of hot food and friendly faces by midday gives you energy. Clicking your tongue and giving the lead a gentle shake, you set off again. A light breeze stirs now, carrying with it the faint hint of rain later. You pull your coat a bit tighter as the road grows softer and muddier underfoot, determined to reach the village before any drizzle begins. Market day in the village. A couple of hours later, you arrive at the village of Ferncombe as the market day is just beginning. It's a rural market town by the standards of this county. Really not much more than a wide spot in the road, with a green, a tavern, and a church. But on market days it bustles with activity. Today, the stone cottages and the space around the little village green are coming alive with traders and farmers from the surrounding countryside. You guide your donkey and cart down the main lane, passing a few early rising locals. A pair of farm wives carrying baskets of eggs and butter nod to you in recognition. You tip your hat in return. Children dart about underfoot, laughing and chasing one another, while their parents set up stalls. The once quiet morning is now filled with a gentle hum of conversation and the sounds of preparation, wooden stalls being assembled, a hammer tapping a tent peg, hens clucking irritably from wicker cages on a farmer's cart. You wheel your cart to your usual spot on the edge of the green, beneath an old chestnut tree whose bare branches reach over the patchy winter grass. This is not a grand market hall or a big city bazaar. It's a simple open-air village market. A few stalls are being arranged in a loose circle. Across the way, a butcher from a nearby town is unloading cuts of pork and mutton, calling out a friendly greeting to you. To one side, an older woman from a farm has spread a cloth on the ground and is arranging freshly dug turnips and carrots in neat piles. The scent of baking bread wafts through the air. Somewhere nearby, likely at the bakery, or maybe a farmer's wife with an oven, loaves are being prepared to sell to the gathering crowd. You set to work preparing your own modest shop, First, you unhitch the donkey and tether her to a post with a bit of hay and water. A local boy brought around for a half-penny tip. The donkey settles contentedly, flicking her ears. From the cart, you lift out a small wooden crate which will serve as your display table, and a rolled wool blanket that you spread on top of it to better show off delicate items. With practiced care, you lay out your wares, bundles of needles and packets of pins, spools of thread in various colors, a few lengths of ribbon, red, blue and a merry plaid to catch the eye. Some lace edgings carefully wrapped to keep them clean, several tin spoons and a new cooking knife, 2 small hand mirrors with polished metal surfaces, an assortment of cheap trinket jewelry, little brooches and rings that shine in the cold daylight, and a couple of chapbooks, slim, cheap booklets of stories and ballads. It's a humble selection, but a varied one, touching on both the practical and the fanciful needs of isolated country folk. Smoothing everything into an attractive arrangement, you pull your coat tighter around you and prepare to greet your customers with a polite smile. Soon, the villagers begin to wander over to your stall, drawn by curiosity and the hope of small luxuries. Many of these faces are familiar to you. You've been coming through this village every few weeks for years now, and your arrival is a little event in their routine. A cluster of young women approach with eager smiles, having heard your gentle call of new ribbons and lace, needles and pins, stories and news from afar. Not long after you set up, they pore over the brightly colored ribbons and the lace with delight. In truth, they likely heard the news of your arrival from the excited shouts of the children before you even called out. As one girl runs her fingers over a length of satin ribbon, her eyes are bright. You overhear her whisper to her friend about trimming her Sunday bonnet with it. These village girls rush to greet you almost as soon as you arrive, anticipating the little treasures you bring in your baskets, ribbons, laces, maybe even a new book or two, and just as importantly, the news and fresh ideas of the world beyond their village that you carry with you. In a place as quiet and isolated as Ferncombe, a traveling merchant like you is a link to the wider world. Throughout the morning, a steady trickle of customers comes by your makeshift stall. You engage each of them with a gentle, unhurried demeanor, perfectly in keeping with the peaceful pace of life here. A farmer's wife, Mrs. Thatcher, stops in front of your display, her cheeks red from the cold. She's accompanied by her young daughter, Polly, who gazes wide-eyed at the pretty ribbons. "Good day, Mrs. Thatcher," you say warmly. "How did the baking fare last week?" You remember she was buying extra flour your last trip through, and this simple question brings a smile to her face. "Oh, the mince pies turned out lovely, thank you. I haven't forgotten. I put one aside for you." She opens her basket and hands you a small pie wrapped in cloth. Grateful, you incline your head and accept the treat, tucking it away safely. Soon, Mrs. Thatcher is perusing your threads and needles. She mentions her son tore his coat, and she needs strong thread to mend it. You help her select a stout spool of navy blue thread and a packet of sharp needles. Meanwhile, little Polly shyly asks if the sky blue ribbon on your table is for sale. You hold it up for the girl to see in the sunlight. The satin gleams. "This would look lovely braided into your hair," you say kindly. Polly blushes and looks to her mother. Mrs. Thatcher laughs softly and nods, deciding on the ribbon as well. You quote a fair price, just a few pence for the lot, and perhaps because you have a soft spot for the child's wide eyes, you slip a tiny brass thimble into the bundle as a complimentary gift. Mrs. Thatcher tries to protest your generosity, but you wave it off, telling her it's in thanks for the pie she gave you. She pays you in coins that clink into your palm, and the two move on their way, the little girl skipping happily with her new ribbon. Next, a lanky young farmer, Tom, wanders over, rubbing the back of his neck as if a bit embarrassed to be here. After a few moments of pretending to examine your wares idly, he admits he's looking for something special, a gift. With a knowing smile, you help him pick out a small faux gold locket on a simple chain from your collection of trinkets. It's not real gold, of course, but polished brass, and inside it holds a tiny mirror. It's the sort of pretty bauble a young man might give to his sweetheart. My Mary has her birthday Sunday next. Tom explains in a low voice, not wanting others nearby to overhear and tease him. The piece is inexpensive but charming, shaped like a little heart. You wrap the locket in a scrap of soft paper to protect it. He hands you a few coins, slightly less than the price you'd marked, but you accept them without a word, guessing that money is tight and wanting the lad to be able to make his girl happy. As he departs, he mumbles a thanks and then adds, "Don't mention that to the fellows over there if you please," jerking his chin toward where a few other young men are loading sacks of grain. You just wink and smile. His secret is safe with you. Around late morning, a stern-faced older gentleman in a top hat circles your cart, inspecting your goods from a slight distance. You recognize him as Mr. Phelps, the village constable, and also the magistrate's agent on market days. He's the sort who keeps a close watch on outsiders. You offer him a polite hello, but he only nods curtly. It's known that some villagers eye traveling peddlers like yourself with a mix of appreciation and caution. Peddlers are welcomed for the useful and fancy goods they bring, yet there lingers a suspicion that a sly peddler might pocket a trinket or two from a household, while the ladies are distracted examining wares. You're aware of this reputation. More than once you've heard the local gossip warn, "Watch that one, or he'll steal the sugar from your tea." You meet Mr. Phelps' gaze steadily and give a slight, respectful bow, ensuring he sees nothing amiss. Satisfied, or finding nothing to pin on you, he moves along with a tighter smile than most. You've been coming here long enough that most residents trust you, knowing you by name and by your honest track record. But you can't entirely escape the shadow of doubt that follows your profession. It's part of the life of a peddler, and you accept it with quiet grace, taking care to mind your manners and integrity in every transaction. As the sun reaches its zenith, the village church bell tolls noon. The gentle ding-dong carries over the market green, momentarily rising above the chatter. By now you've been on your feet for hours, and can feel the fatigue creeping into your calves and lower back. You decide it's a good time to take a short rest and a meal. With the rush of the morning over, the pace of business slows in the early afternoon. Many folks are now busy trading livestock or having their midday dinner. You take a seat on a low stool beside your cart, rotating your shoulders to loosen them. From your coat pocket, you retrieve the mince pie Mrs. Thatcher gifted you earlier. It's still a bit warm, and smells of spiced meat and currants. You eat it slowly, savoring each bite. The rich savory taste of the minced meat and the flaky crust feel fortifying in your belly. You wash it down with a few gulps from a small flask of small beer, weak ale, that you carry. The malty taste refreshing and not too strong for midday. Around you, the market sounds continue in a lulling sort of way. A murmur of voices bargaining over vegetable prices, a distant laugh from the tavern, a horse snorting and the clink of its harness as a cart moves along. The hum of conversation and activity is steady, but not overwhelming, a comforting background chorus of rural life. As you rest, you chat quietly with a fellow trader next to you, a tinker who has been sharpening knives on his pedal-driven grinding wheel since morning. He's an acquaintance you often meet on this circuit. Wiping his brow, he grumbles good-naturedly about the cold weather making metal hard to work with, and jokes that he's nearly frozen his fingers to the grindstone. You both chuckle, and he mentions he'll be heading west to the next fair in a few days. He inquires if you might have any spare lamp oil to sell. He ran low and has a few more village stops before a town where he can resupply. As it happens, you do carry a couple of small flasks of lamp oil for sale. You trade one to him in exchange for a few pennies, and a promise that he'll pass you a good tin pot at half price when your old cooking pot gives out. Such camaraderie and simple barter between traveling tradesmen lighten your spirits. Before long, refreshed from your brief pause, you stand up and stretch. The sun peeks out from behind a cloud, illuminating the market with a golden winter light. People are still milling about, though a few stalls have already concluded their business. You decide to continue selling for a while longer. In the early afternoon, an elderly couple approaches, the husband supporting his wife by the elbow. They are villagers from a hamlet a few miles out. You recall their name, the Hammonds, and that they bought a pair of eyeglasses from you last spring. You greet them, and they smile in recognition. Mrs. Hammond examines your lace trim, admiring the fine if machine-made pattern meant to mimic bobbin lace. She selects a small length to adorn a new cap she's sewing. Mr. Hammond picks up one of your chapbooks, his aging eyes likely drawn to the bold woodcut on its cover. It's a simple booklet of local folk tales. "I remember these stories from my youth," he says, voice quavering with nostalgia. On a whim, you offer him a second chapbook, a collection of humorous riddles at no charge, saying, "For the missus to read to you by the fire." They both beam at this kindness, and insist on paying you a few extra pennies anyway. Not every interaction is a sale. Some folks just come to say hello, or ask if you've seen relatives in the last village, or if you carry news of the wider world. You oblige them with small talk and tidbits of news. You recount how in the market town a week ago there was talk of a new railway line being planned some 20 miles off, a marvel that intrigues them though they can hardly picture it. You share that the price of wheat has gone up a little this winter. You mention that you passed a traveling preacher on the road a few days back, heading their way for Sunday's service, which surprises and pleases the churchgoers among your listeners. In this way, you're not only a merchant of goods, but a bringer of news and gossip, a role nearly as valued by those hungry for a glimpse of the world beyond their cottages. Villagers trade their own news with you too. Who's expecting a baby come spring? Whose cow took ill? Whose son is off in the army? You file these stories away in memory. They make the road a little less lonely, and sometimes they become valuable tidbits to share in the next village down the line. As the day wears on, and your stock dwindles, you make one last notable exchange. A poor young mother with 2 small children shyly approaches your cart. The children's eyes dart immediately to the little tin whistles you have hanging at the side of your cart. You have them more to draw kids over and help their parents linger than for profit. The mother has the weary, worried look of someone counting every coin. She asks in a soft voice if you have any cheap buttons or scrap fabric. Her boy's coat is missing 2 buttons, and she can't afford new clothes. You nod and produce a small pouch filled with assorted old buttons you've collected. You let her pick a few that match for practically no charge at all, just a farthing or 2. Grateful, she rummages in her basket and offers you a chunk of homemade cheese in return, since she insists on paying somehow. You accept it with a smile. Then, seeing the children still eyeing the tin whistles, you make a show of inspecting one, and then hand it to the little boy. This one has a dent and I couldn't possibly sell it," you say kindly, even though it's perfectly fine. "Why don't you take it off my hands?" The boy's face lights up, and he and his sister eagerly take the whistle. Their mother looks as if she might cry with gratitude, and you simply wave as they depart, the boy already tootling a few merry notes while his sister giggles. Such moments, small acts of goodwill, cost you only a trivial loss of profit, but they earn a wealth of goodwill and warmth in return, which in your view is far more valuable. By mid-afternoon, the crowd thins as market day winds down. Farmers pack up their unsold produce, and neighbors linger in clumps chatting about the day's dealings. You've had a reasonably good day of sales. Your stock of ribbons is much diminished, and many of your needles, threads, and small goods have found new homes. Your coin purse is satisfyingly heavier, with the clink of a few shillings and many pennies earned. Fatigue is beginning to tug at you in earnest now. You roll your shoulders and knead the small of your back discreetly. It's the kind of tiredness that settles in after standing on your feet since morning and engaging dozens of people with polite energy. A deep breath of cool air invigorates you a little. The day is still bright, but the winter sun already dips lower toward the horizon. Long shadows of trees and cottages are stretching over the green, and there's a golden hue to the light that signals late afternoon. Deciding it's time to wrap up, you begin packing away your remaining wares. With methodical care, you fold the fabrics and lace back into your canvas bundles, stow the remaining trinkets and tools in their crate, and cover everything in the cart. The market official passes by to collect the small fee for your stall space. Today it's a penny, which you promptly pay from your pocket. You then reharness your patiently waiting donkey, who brays softly as if asking, "Are we finally moving on?" You give her a soothing pat on the neck. Before you depart, a couple of regular customers come by in a bit of a rush, realizing you're leaving and hoping to catch you. One is the blacksmith's wife, who begs a packet of needles last minute. The other is a dairy farmer, wanting another bar of soap you sometimes carry. You oblige them both, digging into your packs for the requested items, happy to make the extra sales just as you're closing up. With that, you share a few farewells. The butcher shouts, "Safe travels, trader. See you next time," as he loads up his own cart. Mrs. Thatcher, earlier your customer, waves while walking home with her daughter, the new blue ribbon already braided into the girl's hair. You tip your hat to anyone still nearby, then take hold of your cart. With a gentle cluck of your tongue and a light tug, you encourage your donkey forward. It's time to head back on the road. On the road at dusk. You leave Ferncombe village as the late afternoon sun sinks toward the treetops. The road out of the village leads westward, and you intend to travel a few more miles before stopping for the night. The next coaching in on your route lies on the main road ahead, about 2 hours' walk. It's a familiar stop, and you calculate you should reach it by early evening. You could have sought lodging in the village you just left, but you know the inn down the road will put you closer to tomorrow's destination, and you prefer to keep moving while light remains. So onward you go, setting a steady pace despite the weariness in your limbs. The day's warmth, meager as it was, is fading fast. A chill breeze sweeps over the open fields, rustling the dry reeds by the roadside. You raise the collar of your coat and tuck your chin down, walking beside your donkey to stay warm. The roads are softer now, the morning's frost long melted. Your boots occasionally squelch in a muddy patch, and the cart wheels sometimes stick for a moment in the mire before jolting free. You press on, mindful of each step but unhurried, letting the donkey find her footing. Overhead, the sky has taken on a lovely hue. There's a band of pale gold and pink near the horizon, fading into a deepening blue higher up. A few streaky clouds catch the last sunlight, glowing peach and rose for a brief moment before dimming. The landscape around you is peaceful and empty of people. Fields of stubble from the autumn harvest lie dormant, bounded by hedgerows, now mostly bare of leaves. In some pastures, you see dark shapes of cows heading back toward their barns, driven by farmhands whose distant calls carry to you on the wind, then fade. A flock of small birds suddenly erupts from a hedgerow ahead, whirring across the road and disappearing into a copse of oak trees. Other than such occasional flurries of activity, you have only your own company, and that of your trusty animal. After the sociable bustle of the market, the solitude of the road feels calming. You take a deep breath of the cool dusk air, filling your lungs and exhaling slowly, watching the mist of your breath drift away. As you walk, you reflect on the day's business in a gentle, half-thinking way. The rhythmic crunch of the cart and plod of the donkey create a steady background that lulls your mind into a calm state. You run a hand absent-mindedly along the edge of the cart, mentally tallying what you sold and what you have left. It was a good market day, you decide. The coins tucked in your inner pocket jingle faintly with each step, a comforting sound reminding you that today's work was fruitful. You've learned to be cautious with your earnings, however. A peddler carrying a day's takings must stay vigilant. Though this road is relatively safe and you've seen no one for a while, you habitually keep your purse concealed and one hand loosely near the small knife on your belt, just in case. Old tales of bandits still linger in every traveler's mind, but you push those thoughts away and instead focus on the positive, the friendly faces you encountered, the small kindnesses exchanged, and the prospect of a warm inn ahead. To distract yourself from your sore feet, you quietly hum a simple tune, an old folk lullaby that comes to mind. The melody is low and soft, almost more of a murmur than a song, blending with the whisper of the breeze. The act of humming is soothing, helping you maintain your gentle pace. Your donkey's ears swivel back at the sound of your voice, and you pat her neck reassuringly. "Not much farther, girl," you murmur. She snorts as if in response, her hooves clopping steadily onward. The sun has now vanished completely, leaving a stripe of orange along the horizon that grows thinner and duller by the minute. Dusk settles around you. The first stars blink into existence in the east, pale and trembling in the residual light. You reach into your cart and fetch out your small lantern. It's just a simple tin lantern with a horn pane, but it's invaluable on dark roads. You pause to light the lantern's candle using your tinderbox, shielding the tiny flame from the breeze until it catches. The lantern glows with a gentle yellow light, swinging from a hook on the front of your cart and illuminating the ground directly ahead. It adds a comforting bubble of light around you and casts long flickering shadows off to the side. The temperature continues to drop as nightfall comes in earnest. Your breath fogs thicker and you feel your cheeks and nose turning numb, despite the scarf wrapped around the lower half of your face. You pull your coat even closer, thankful for its thickness. The road has led you out of open fields and into a small patch of woodland now. In the gathering darkness, the trees stand like silent black giants on either side of the lane. Dry leaves from last autumn crunch underfoot, and occasionally you hear a twig snap somewhere in the underbrush, perhaps a fox or deer stirred by your passing. The sound of the cartwheels on the dirt and the gentle jingle of harness seem amplified in the hush of the twilight forest. It is the kind of quiet that is both eerie and tranquil at once. A lone owl hoots from a branch above, its call echoing among the trees. You smile. An owl's hoot is a familiar friend to any night traveler. Fatigue now settles deeper into your body. Your feet are sore, and a blister on your heel formed during the long walk this morning throbs with each step. You adjust your stride to ease the rubbing. The muscles in your legs and back feel taut and tired, and you long to sit down in a soft chair. But you know stopping in the dark, in cold this bitter, is not wise until you reach shelter. So you push on, keeping your mind occupied with gentle thoughts. You recall the conversations from the inn last night, the ones you half heard as you drifted to sleep by the fireplace. You think of the upcoming villages on your route, and consider what supplies you might need to replenish when you reach a larger town in a few days. Perhaps more ribbons. They always seem popular, and you're nearly out of blue now. Maybe you'll invest in a bolt of calico cloth to cut and sell by the yard. A few villagers have inquired about cloth for making dresses. These are pleasant musings, touching on plans and familiarity, not too stressful, just enough to keep your mind comfortably engaged as your body powers through the final stretch of today's journey. Just when the ache in your knees and the cold in your fingers threaten to dominate your thoughts, you notice a warm glow through the trees ahead. The road is curving back out of the woods, and at that bend, on a little rise, you see the welcoming lights of an inn. It's the King's Arms, a coaching inn that stands at a crossroads of this country lane and a somewhat larger road. Relief and anticipation flutter in your chest at the sight. The thought of a fire, a hot meal, and rest for your weary feet quickens your pace instinctively. There it is, you softly announce to your donkey, as much to encourage yourself as her. Evening at the inn, at the inn. As you approach the inn's yard, the scene is reassuringly homey. Golden light spills from the windows of the tavern, illuminating the ground outside. A few other wagons and carts are parked around the yard, evidence that you won't be the only guest tonight. The smell of wood smoke and something savory, perhaps a stew, drifts on the air, making your stomach rumble in response. From inside, you can hear muffled sounds of life, the low murmur of voices, a clink of dishes, and an occasional burst of subdued laughter. All of it speaks of warmth and comfort, a stark and welcome contrast to the cold, dark road behind you. You lead your donkey through the gate and into the yard. Almost immediately, the inn's stable hand, a gangly boy of perhaps 14, comes out to greet you, lantern in hand. "Evening, sir," he says around a yawn. Clearly he'd been dozing by the kitchen fire between guest arrivals. He recognizes you. You've stopped here many times. Need the mule put up for the night? "Yes, please," you reply, gently correcting him. "She's a donkey, not a mule." You smile to take any sting out of it, and he grins back, nodding. Together, you guide your donkey into the small stable at the side of the inn. It's a simple shelter, but clean and dry, filled with the comforting smells of hay and horses. In an empty stall thick with fresh straw, you unharness your loyal animal. The stable hand gives her a pat and forks some hay into the trough. "I'll rub her down and give her water," he offers. "Thank you." You slide him a 3p coin for his trouble, a small price to ensure your companion is well cared for. He lights up at the tip, and you know he'll give her a good brushing. You take a moment to stroke the donkey's head affectionately. She has been your steadfast partner on the road, and she deserves the rest. The donkey nuzzles your palm, maybe looking for an apple. "I'll bring you a treat in the morning," you promise softly. With that, you leave her in the stable's warmth and step back out into the cold briefly to gather a few items from your cart that you'll need overnight. You fetch a satchel containing a change of shirt and some personal items, and your small lockbox, a wooden chest where you keep your earnings and valuables. While outright theft is uncommon at a reputable inn like this, you never risk leaving your precious coins unattended in the cart. The rest of your goods are covered with a canvas and secured. The cart can stay outside for the night, locked by chain to a post in the yard. Finally, you make your way to the inn's main door. Pushing it open, you're immediately greeted by a wave of warmth and light. It's as if you've stepped into another world, one of cozy domestic cheer, shielded from the winter night. The common room of the King's Arms is aglow with firelight from a wide stone hearth at one end, and several oil lamps mounted on the walls. The plaster and oak-beamed room is modest in size, with a low ceiling darkened by many years of smoke. A few sturdy wooden tables and benches are spaced around. This evening, only a handful of patrons are present. In one corner, near the fireplace, two older farmers nurse pints of ale and speak in low tones about crop prices. At another table, a well-dressed merchant, perhaps traveling with the coach, is scribbling in a ledger by lamplight, while his manservant quietly eats stew beside him. The atmosphere is calm and subdued, a typical weeknight in a rural inn, without the rowdiness one might find in a town pub. You make your way to an empty table not far from the hearth, gratefully choosing a seat where the fire's warmth can reach you. As you peel off your gloves and rub your cold hands together, the heat from the flames begins to soothe the chill from your fingers and face. It's a gentle, enveloping warmth that makes your eyelids heavy for a moment. You could almost drift to sleep right there by the fire, but the rumble in your stomach reminds you that a proper meal is in order first. The innkeeper, a rotund, balding man with a friendly face, approaches to take your order. "Welcome back, friend," he says, recognizing you with a grin. "What'll it be tonight?" "We've a nice mutton stew on the fire, and bread just out of the oven." "That sounds perfect," you reply, "and a pint of mild ale, thank you." He nods and shuffles off to the kitchen. You remove your heavy coat and hang it on a peg on the wall, along with your hat, happy to be free of the weight and bundled layers for a while. In your waistcoat and shirt sleeves, you feel the heat of the room easing the last of the shivers from your bones. Your boots, caked in mud, remain on for now, but you look forward to tugging them off later when you retire to your room. While you wait for your supper, you let yourself simply be in the moment, appreciating the comfort. You lean back against the wooden bench, stretching your legs under the table. The sound of the crackling fireplace is immensely soothing. You watch the flames dance and listen to the occasional pop of sap in the logs. The smells in the inn are delightful. Tendrils of steam from the kitchen carry the aroma of herbs, rich gravy and baking bread. There's also the faint tang of ale and the smoky scent of the peat burning on the fire. All these sensory details weave together into a tapestry of homely comfort that makes you sigh in contentment. Glancing about, you see pinned on the wall a notice board with a few tattered broadsides and announcements. Out of idle curiosity, you wander over to read them while stretching your legs. There's a notice about an upcoming livestock fair in a nearby town. Something to keep in mind. You could plan your route to be there as fairs attract good business. Another paper warns of a highwayman reported on the northern road. You make a mental note to remain cautious, though you won't be heading that way this trip. And a more cheerful one, an announcement of a Christmas pageant planned in a month's time at a local estate from last season. The papers flutter slightly in the draft from the door. Satisfied that nothing requires urgent attention, you return to your seat. Before long, the innkeeper's wife brings out your stew and ale. The mutton stew arrives in a deep earthenware bowl, steam rising from its hearty mix of carrots, onions, and potatoes. A generous hunk of dark brown bread accompanies it, along with a pat of butter on a wooden dish. "Here you are, love," she says kindly, as she sets it down. "Mind, it's hot." She also places the tankard of ale by your hand. You thank her sincerely. The first spoonful of stew is heaven, a bit too hot on the tongue at first, so you blow gently on the spoon, then taste it. It's rich and savory, the lamb incredibly tender, likely simmered for hours with bay and thyme. Each bite warms you from the inside out. You realize you hadn't eaten a hot meal since last night, and your body eagerly welcomes the nourishment. Between bites of stew, you slather butter on the soft, crusty bread and take a bite. It's perfect for sopping up the flavorful broth. The ale is mild as promised and goes down smoothly, a light counterpoint to the heavy stew. As you eat, you allow your mind to drift and simply observe the subtle life of the inn around you. The two farmers by the fire have finished their conversation. One is poking the fire idly with an iron poker, sending a cascade of sparks swirling up the chimney. The traveling merchant with the ledger is now leaning back, eyes closed, perhaps giving his brain a rest from numbers. His servant has dozed off, chin to chest. In a far corner, nearly hidden in shadow, you notice another peddler family quietly occupied. It looks like a husband and wife, perhaps a baby sleeping in the wife's arms, and a young boy of about 8. They've spread a blanket on the floor for the boy, who is curled up, already fast asleep after what was certainly a long day on the road for them as well. By the lamplight, the wife is sewing diligently, nimble fingers flying as she adds some lace trimming to what looks like a bonnet or cap, likely to sell at their next stop. You watch the scene appreciatively. In the evenings, many traveling traders and their families use the quiet hours to prepare goods for the next day's market, stitching, carving, mending as needed. The husband, a fellow peddler, sits whittling a small piece of wood into a toy doll perhaps, or maybe just fidgeting to wind down. He catches your eye and gives a polite nod, which you return. There's a silent camaraderie in that exchange, a recognition that you both share this wandering life, making do and finding moments of peace when you can. Finishing the last of your stew, you feel the deep, pleasant fullness in your belly and the heaviness of limbs that have walked many miles. Fatigue wraps around you like a soft blanket now that you're warm and fed. But before surrendering to it, you have a few small end-of-day tasks. Reaching into your satchel, you pull out a little notebook and pencil stub. By the light of your table's lantern, you jot down a brief account of the day's sales and happenings. It's your habit to keep simple ledgers, and also a bit of a journal. You note which items sold well, ribbons and needles as usual, which items you might need to restock soon, and the current coin total you carry. You also scribble a line about the weather and any notable events, underlining met Tinker Tom, traded oil, and saw notice fair on 14th. The process of writing is calming. The pencil scratches softly on the paper as you record these memories while they're fresh. Next, you tend to your equipment. Your boots are caked with dried mud from the road. While still at the table, you tug them off one at a time with a quiet groan of relief. Your feet rejoice at being free. From your satchel, you retrieve a rag and a small tin of dubbin, a waxy grease. You spend a few minutes cleaning and oiling your boots, wiping away the mud and working the dubbin into the cracked leather. It's a soothing, methodical task, one you've done countless times. The leather drinks in the grease, turning darker and more supple. This small bit of maintenance will help keep the boots waterproof for tomorrow's likely damp roads. Once done, you set the boots aside near the hearth to dry gently. You then take out your coin pouch and discreetly sort through the day's earnings on the table. You count the shillings and pence, stacking them in small piles and tallying the sum. It's enough to cover your expenses for lodging, feed for the donkey, meals, and still leave a profit to save. You smile to yourself, tucking the coins back away into the pouch, and then into the inner pocket of your waistcoat. With a bit of extra string, you even tie the pocket shut from inside, as you often do at night. a little trick for peace of mind while you sleep, knowing your money is secure on your person. Finally, you prepare for bed. The innkeeper shows you to a tiny room upstairs, really a cramped garret above the main hall, but it is private and clean enough. Climbing the narrow wooden stairs, your legs protest, but you're nearly there. Your room has a low sloped ceiling directly under the thatch roof. There's a small bed with a thick quilt, a washstand with a ceramic basin and pitcher of water, and a single tallow candle set on a corner table. The air up here is colder than the common room. You shiver as you step inside, but no matter, the quilt and your own exhaustion will surely keep you warm once you're abed. From the window, just a little square opening with wooden shutters, you catch a glimpse of the night outside. You lift the shutter and see that the sky has cleared. The stars are out in full now, glittering like icy diamonds in the blackness. A slip of a moon hangs low, gilding the edges of a few clouds. The yard below is quiet. The silhouettes of the other carts and the dark outline of the stable are barely visible in the faint moonlight. A few sleepy chirps of crickets have started up, and you think you hear the distant lonely howl of a farm dog or perhaps a fox. The world is peaceful and still. You perform a simple nightly routine by the dim light of your candle. You pour a little water from the pitcher into the basin and quickly wash your face and hands, the cool water removing the dust of travel. It refreshes you, even as the chill makes you shiver once more. You change your shirt, swapping the travel-stained one for a clean homespun cotton shirt from your satchel. The fresh linen against your skin feels good. You'll have to find a chance to wash your dirty clothes in a stream or in wash house in a coming day, but that's for another time. You gently stretch your back and legs, touching your toes and rotating your shoulders to ease the stiffness. A few quiet pops and cracks of joints release. You can't help a soft sigh as you feel the relief of each muscle relaxing after the day's labors. You check on your valuables one more time, ensuring your coin pouch is secure and that the door to your room is latched. Satisfied that you and your belongings are safe, you let your guard fully relax. Now comes the best moment of the day. Rest. You drift to the bedside and sit down on the mattress. It sinks pleasantly under your weight. Though it's a simple bed, the inn has provided a thick quilt, stuffed with wool, and an extra blanket folded at the foot, which you pull up. You blow out your candle, enveloping the room in darkness, save for a sliver of moonlight that sneaks through a crack in the shutter. Lying down, you sink into the bed. The mattress is a bit lumpy, and the bedding smells faintly of lavender and old linens. Likely the quilt has been aired in the sun recently. It's infinitely more comfortable than the hard ground or the back of your cart. You wiggle your toes under the covers, feeling the last of the day's chill finally being chased away by your body heat, trapped beneath the layers. As you adjust your head on the pillow, you notice the distant sound of the inn's front door closing as the last patrons leave, and the muffled voices of the innkeeper's family down below as they tidy up for the night. Those sounds soon quiet as well, and a profound stillness settles. In the quiet dark, your mind wanders contentedly over the events of the day. You recall faces of the people you met, the laughter of the little girl with the blue ribbon, the shy pride of the young man buying a locket, the gratitude in the eyes of the mother who traded cheese for buttons. These gentle human connections are the true rewards of your roaming life, as much as the coins in your pocket. You feel a sense of gratitude for the warmth of the bed, the roof over you, the food in your belly, and the modest successes of the day. Outside, a light rain begins to patter against the inn's roof, but you are safe and dry, able to appreciate the soft lullaby of raindrops from the comfort of your bed. Tomorrow you'll wake and do it all again. Travel to the next village, set up shop, greet new faces and some familiar ones, deal with weather and weariness, share news and goods. The cycle of a peddler's life will continue its humble course, but that thought doesn't worry you. Instead, it is reassuring. There's a simple rhythm to your days that suits you well, a purpose in each step and each exchange. As you lie there, you imagine the road you will walk in the morning, perhaps glistening with rainwater under the early light, leading you onward to whatever small adventures and kindnesses await. Your eyes grow heavy, and you allow them to close. The darkness behind your eyelids is soft and complete. You take a final deep breath and let it out very slowly, feeling all the remaining tension leave your body. The rains patter, the faint crackle of the dying fire in the hearth downstairs, and the occasional muffled thump of someone moving below all blend into a soothing quiet. Wrapped in your quilt, you feel as cozy as one of the dormouse nests you sometimes find hedged in the summertime. There is a profound peace in this moment. Fatigue gently overtakes you, not as an enemy, but as a welcome friend, guiding you toward rest. You shift once to find the most comfortable spot, and your hand finds the extra pillow which you hug lightly to your chest, a source of warmth and comfort. Your breathing slows to a calm, steady rhythm. In your mind's eye, you see the image of a country lane under the morning sun, stretching toward the horizon, a road you will follow when it's time, but not now. Now you have done all you needed to do. As the rain sings its quiet song on the thatch above, you feel yourself drift, floating on the edge of sleep. A final conscious thought flickers. Contentment, pure and simple contentment, with the quiet end of this ordinary, cozy day. Your last waking sensation is a gentle smile on your face, as you think, just for a second, of the little joys of the day and the promise of a new dawn to come. And then, like a candle wick pinched out, sleep takes you. Your breathing settles into the deep, slow pattern of slumber, and you sink into a restful night, warm, safe, and at peace. You, the traveling merchant, have found your rest. Tomorrow will come in its own time. But for now, in this tranquil room above a country inn, with the sound of the rain and the soft glow of embers lingering, you slip into a gentle, well-earned sleep. Sweet dreams,